This year is going to be the most important election, I believe, in Australian history.
I think things are just moving far too left, and I'm actually considerably worried about what sort of future we are going to leave for our children if we continue on down this path.
For me, the education system as well needs a complete overhaul.
But I'm also very concerned about manufacturing in this country. We are becoming a communist country. We are relying so much on other countries. They're coming in, they're buying up our land, they're kicking our farmers off the land. We've got to put a stop to it. We've got to get manufacturing back. We are $1.5 trillion in debt.
There are multiple complex issues facing Australia. We all know how challenging they are, and the most concerning to me personally and the Australian Federation Party is the corporate globalist takeover of businesses. I've been working for SA Health for over 3 decades. I have never seen such a broken, deplorable health system. People are scared to go to hospital where you are meant to receive adequate, ethical, moral, just treatment.
As the United Australia Party, we have a very comprehensive policy on mandates. We do not want to see the mandates in place. We have a freedom platform for mandates as well, which includes making sure that lockdowns never happen again, getting rid of these mandates, and then putting a Bill of Rights in place to ensure that these sorts of things can never happen again.
So IMOP's #1 policy is to remove the mandate. We also believe in true transparency and accountability in science, media and government.
We will also look at having an investigation done into these mandates. No one should lose their job in Australia. No one should lose their job anywhere. There is nothing wrong with any person in this room. There is probably 100 years worth of experience in this room. There's doctors, police officers, emergency services. It doesn't matter what employment you're with. Years and years of experience are in this room, and the government feels that it's their right to take your job away.
The main attraction for me personally, professionally and politically to the Australian Federation Party is its innovative, refreshing, relevant policies. We will take them to the High Court. Yes, there is corruption.
One Nation from the very beginning had a policy of choice and no discrimination. We never want to see people have to lose their personal freedom in order to keep their job.
We will certainly support any policy that is about bringing back the ownership of our land back to Australia and the Australian people.
The Great Australian Party intends to bring Australia back under our proper constitution. If we get back under the constitution, there is no way other countries can come in here and buy our land. This is our land. This is our country. It is not up for sale. We should not be selling our natural resources to overseas countries, and the Constitution protects every Australian if we can get back under that Constitution. The government took that Constitution out from under us. I don't recall ever going to a referendum and putting my hand up and saying that you can take the Constitution away from us. That very Constitution that our forefathers fought for us so that we can have our freedoms.
We will ensure that these corporates that are coming into our country and taking over will pay adequate taxes if they want the privilege of selling their products on our lands. You don't just come in and take over small businesses, as I said before, without paying taxes, with all these loopholes, money under the table, all this corruption. It has to stop.
Now, out of the 10,000 applications that they've had over the last decade or so, 99.9%, or in fact 4 only, requests to buy have been rejected. So the government is a rubber stamp. And we have always had a policy of wanting to have all decisions made in the national interest. Our view is that land and businesses for that matter should never have more than 49% foreign control. That is, there should always be Australian control. But we do support Australians being put first, and that means ownership. of our land and our businesses, because you'd be surprised how many companies that have got good sounding names, Energy Australia, totally foreign owned, never paid any tax in this country. There are so many businesses that are out here. Chevron Australia Proprietary Limited, biggest investor in Australia, never paid tax here, owns most of our oil and gas off the Northwest Shelf. These companies are very clever in the way that they're registered and the way that they pay tax or don't. And I have got a tax law degree, and that's most of my working life.
Yep, so the United Australia Party, we also firmly believe that we should be placing Australia's best interests first. We really want to address a lot of these through our ability to return $1 trillion of super back into the Australian economy. The Australia First policy, as all of us have said here today, is crucial to be able to turn around a lot of what we've seen in the last few years too. So it's something that we firmly believe is going to be important. I also like to highlight that we want to remove the ability for the government to separate water and land. That is something that should never have happened. And unfortunately, there's a lot of overseas foreign ownership of water in Australia as well as land. And that's something that we would also like to correct as well.
What we need to do is make sure that we have the resources and the infrastructure for our community first before we bring in immigrants. Because if we're bringing in more people, we don't have enough housing in that as it is. The cost of living is going through the roof. And we're going to bring more people into the country. Where are we going to put them? If there's no housing for our own people, we've got people sleeping on the streets. That is abhorrent. It should not be happening. This is just disgraceful, the situation that Australia is in. So if we're going to bring immigrants in and we've got people sleeping on the streets, where are we supposed to put them? Where's the infrastructure for these people? So I do agree with immigration, that as long as we have the infrastructure and the ability to be able to house these people and to have them be a part of our everyday life.
Shouldn't we be looking after our own backyard? I don't believe we have an unemployment rate of 4%. I would say it's at least 8%. We are being lied to. I've lost my career, so I'm one of 2,500 nurses in South Australia alone who has lost my career.
We want to see Australians trained when they can be before we bring in overseas workers. And we've been approached from numerous industries about people who've been told if they're not vaccinated, like at the Australian Submarine Corporation, then they will bring in skilled tradespeople from overseas who are vaccinated. And that's forced a very large number of young men who are at risk from these vaccines, I mean that's just fact, to be vaccinated. And so we want to see our people trained first, and so I'd agree with Kathy about that. We've got a large workforce who really can go straight back to work, and I'm including anybody here, and yet they're saying we're short of aged care workers. That's because they've created a shortage of aged care workers.
The last 6 or 12 months we haven't seen a great deal of immigration come into Australia, but that's something that we need to correct slightly for certain areas where there are gaps. But very much, as all of us have said here, we need to focus on getting back the jobs of all of us sitting here, and there's numerous different groups that we've spoken at like this now. Get you back your jobs first, and then let's see which skills-focused areas there are still gaps in, and then we can plug those areas.
As somebody myself who found myself in a homeless situation for 5 months after losing my job, with my children having to live in family houses, I absolutely believe we need to look after Australians first, slow down the immigration. We don't need to have so many people coming through so quickly on a quota basis. Everything that everyone said before me, I 100% agree with. So yeah, Australians first, and then we just bring in the migration slowly, and we look after everybody's jobs, and we skew everybody in Australia first.
See, that will make housing more affordable, particularly for first homers. South Australia has the highest rate of stamp duty in the country. It has always appalled me, even before this COVID rubbish and this tyranny. Why does South Australia pay the highest rate of stamp duty? Our wages are no higher. In fact, in some areas, they're probably lower.
We're not only
So
standing
what
out
is
a
that
conviction
about?
for ourselves and people like ourselves in this room here, whether we be health or aged care or people in firefighting or police. It's also our families as well, our children, to make sure that we don't let this woke agenda take over and make sure that we can change the trajectory of Australia and the way that it's heading.